guys, it's Karina here with another video. So today I'm going to be talking about purity culture and what it is. So purity culture is a term often used by the evangelical movement that attempts to promote a biblical view of purity by discouraging dating and promoting virginity before marriage, and often through the use of tools as purity pledges, symbols such as purity rings, and events such as purity balls. So purity rings, pledges, and balls. Let me just explain what those are. So purity pledges are vows taken by teenagers or young adults to abstain from sex before marriage. Purity rings are often worn on your married finger to make a promise to essentially stay abstinent. Purity balls are a formal dance event attended by fathers and their daughters to promote virginity until marriage for the teenage girls. At the balls, the fathers will often sign a pledge that they would be an example of purity and moral integrity for their daughter. So yeah, it's taken pretty seriously. So how did the purity culture movement get started? Well, the purity culture movement began in the 1990s as Christians were children or teens during the beginning of the 1960s. The sexual revolution began to have children and teenagers of their own. So by the early 1990s, AIDS had become the #1 cause of death in the United States, and the teen pregnancy rate had reached an all-time high. So that was kind of why they wanted to start making these abstinent-only pledges and encourage saving sex for marriage, so that they could avoid all of these sexual diseases and teen pregnancies, which did actually fail and did not work because sex education is important. So yeah, I'm just going to talk a bit about my experience. So I grew up in a pretty conservative church where it was very encouraged to save sex for marriage, and it was mentioned, and yeah, it was highly encouraged, and I was all for it. I'm like, yes, I'm going to save sex for marriage. I was writing letters to my future husband, talking about my purity. It was pretty intense. And then something kind of changed in me, and I saw the harm it can have, and I saw and heard all these stories of what people had experienced because of this purity culture movement. And the fact that it made me feel wrong for having normal feelings and desires, and the fact that it brought shame upon me for what are normal human desires, sickened me. And it sickened me that this purity culture could have done that to me. And it just really made me feel ashamed of my body, and I didn't want to hold on to that anymore. And I'm just like, this is not right, and I don't know if this is going to work for me. So I'm just going to take things as they go and what all of this means to me. So I just went on this journey of rediscovering. So I just want to make a disclaimer. So if you are saving sex for marriage, good for you, and I'm happy for you. And it does work for some people, and I think that yeah, that it can work for some people. And I think what I'm trying to communicate in this video is not that saving sex for marriage is bad, it's just that the culture around it is really toxic. So I just want to explain that that is my goal and intention in making this video, is explaining the culture around it, not just that saving sex for marriage is bad, because that's not what I'm trying to communicate. So now I'm going to get into why purity culture can be harmful. So purity culture overemphasizes the importance of sex and de-emphasizes grace, and added unnecessary rules to male-female relationships. For example, in the book True Love Waits, he promoted a high standard. The book emphasized to not date and not kiss before marriage, concepts of giving your heart away that are not in the Bible, and trying to warn people of the potential pitfalls of dating. It instilled fear for some, and fear of making mistakes or having their heart broken. The book also gives the impression that certain methodologies of relationships would deliver a happy ever after ending, and that you would have a great marriage and that you'd have great sex and all these things, even though that is not promised in Scripture. So this is a harmful message because it doesn't work for everyone, and it encourages to abstain from sexual desires. It creates a culture of fear of our bodies and shame of our bodies and our what can be dirty minds sometimes. Where purity culture has failed us is in keeping focus on the body and on sex rather than Christ. There's a lack of sex education in the church, which is also a huge problem. It makes an obsession with staying abstinent. It is not a sin, but the preoccupation with sin that separates us from God. People have made purity into an idol. It makes us afraid to date anyone unless it's only for marriage. We believe that if we save sex for marriage, our marriage will ultimately prosper. But again, this is not promised. So yeah, those are what I believe are the harms of purity culture. Now, if you're in the area of life where you're deconstructing purity culture and being pure, it is really difficult, and chances are it will take a lot of time to recover, and you will need to heal from purity culture as you are changing your lifestyle, and there'll still be a lot of shame within that, which is really difficult to go through and let go of. So I think an important lesson to learn post-purity culture is that you need to realize that your soul, mind, and body are all connected. We must love and take care of our bodies and learn to be unashamed of our bodies and of our minds and of our soul, and be unashamed and free from these things. So some great resources to check out are Jamie Lee Finch. She has a great website, and she has a bunch of different podcasts and stuff and resources, and she has a book called You Are Your Own. Great person, super cool. Shameless by Nadia Bolz-Weber. I read her book, super great and super empowering. And then Pure by Linda Kay Klein is also another great book. So the only one I've actually read is Shameless. I hope to read the other ones soon eventually, but I've heard great things about them and what they're doing and the movements they're creating. So I highly recommend you check those things out. And I just encourage you, if you're going through this deconstruction right now of purity culture, that's okay. And it's okay to deconstruct. And you just essentially need to deconstruct and then reconstruct what you believe. And that's kind of what I've been going through these past 6 months, is I've been deconstructing a lot of things I once believed and reconstructing what I believe now. And it's been a really healing process, but it is definitely really difficult. So give yourself grace, and give yourself grace to figure it out, and just really lean on God in this time, as He can help you and He can be your anchor as you go through this big transition of figuring out what your faith means to you. So yeah, that's my advice to you guys. And just again, I want to just say, if you're saving sex for marriage, I did not want to shame you in this video. I think that's awesome, and I'm not trying to de-promote that. I'm just trying to explain the harms of purity culture and the two sides of the argument, essentially, is what I'm trying to communicate in this video. So I hope everything makes sense. If you have any questions, put it in the comments below. Please subscribe to my channel, and I hope you guys have a great week, and know that if God puts you to it, He will put you through it. Alright, bye guys.